oh my God, I'm moving from the employee quadrant over to the small business and investing quadrant. And that's a really big leap as well. And it does keep me up at night. Like, am I ready to not have a job?
Welcome, everybody, to the Big Picture Blueprint. We are excited to give you guys a special show where we had two guests today and got to do another little bit of a panel / round table with pretty experienced land investors. But Dan, before we introduce our guests, how are you doing?
I'm good, Mason. It's been a productive month. Lots of closings, lots of deals, buying and selling. So good overall.
Awesome. And who did we have on the show today?
Yeah, so we have Larry Jarnigo and Danielson. Many of you will probably recognize one or potentially both of them. They are both very experienced land investors down in the Southeast, Tennessee specifically, who have both done somewhere between 50 and 100 deals. And we wanted to do another round table talking about where they're finding deals today, how they're adapting to the changing market, mistakes they've made along the way. And so this was a really tactical episode where you're going to hear how they're continuing to be profitable in 2025. If you're new, things you should avoid that you might be being told by your quote unquote mentor, and a lot more about how to run a profitable business today. So this was a really fun one that I think listeners will get a lot of useful advice from. So
absolutely,
let's bring them in.
It's been fun seeing Ann Danielson. Her business is very narrow and focused, much fewer deals, and Larry's had a much larger breadth. So getting both of their perspectives was really good. So we'll bring them in now.
Ann and Larry, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's great to have you guys here. Excited to kind of do another round table. So give the listeners a quick background. Ann, if you want to start, approximately how many deals you've done, where you've started and where you're really focused today.
Sure. I'm Ann Danielson, and it's just my sister and I. She's Mary, and we're the Danielson Land Co. We both work remotely. She's in Denver, and I'm in the Philippines most of the year, even though I'm in Madison right now. And we operate in Tennessee. We try to limit our deals to keep everything really simple and clean. It never is, but we aim to do 4 to 6 bigger subdivides a year, and then like little flips along the way if they seem like they're going to be tidy. And that's it.
Great. Larry, what about you?
Yeah, I'm Larry Jarnigo. I have been doing this, I guess, since 2021. Left the corporate job, kind of went all in on this. Usually do between 25 and 30 deals a year, probably. I want to look at anything that's at least 15,000 of net profit if it's just a flip. So do a few of those, handful of those, couple of subdivides, minor subdivides. And then I've learned more about the kind of development space, tying up some land with a seller, getting a builder on board. So I have a townhome project here in Nashville that we're moving forward. So yeah, I think that's kind of the goal for me. Keep the lights on with some flips, have some nice subdivides to be proud of, and hopefully 1 or 2 development deals going forward.
Awesome. And I love that the two of you guys that we're interviewing today are in similar markets too, but have slightly different business models. It feels like, Ann, you're very, very targeted with very specific projects that you'll do. And Larry, you have a slightly wider breadth of projects that you're willing to take on. But with that being said, kind of going back and looking at when you first got started, what was some really bad advice that you received, whether it was through a program or just kind of within the sphere of land investing, that you have really changed your mind about, that you don't listen to anymore, or something that in hindsight could have really harmed your business from the get-go? And if you want to go first.
We never did it, but we were always tempted or felt like maybe we should, and that's to hire out. Like, I think land investors are oftentimes, I don't know if it's their ego or what, they feel like they want to have a lot of people working for them. And I got 20 VAs and we're like, we don't do that. And so I think no matter what, I do consume a lot of podcasts. And since the beginning, I've always thought, should I? And then anything, ringless voicemail, should I? And we just, nope, we never do. So but we're always tempted. And I guess like anything, you just have to think, who am I? What do I want my day to look like? What do I want my business to look like? And then you take any golden nuggets and then you leave the rest behind.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I would agree with a lot of that. I think you get in and then you hear of people with these big teams and you kind of question yourself if you're really running a legitimate business without an office and this and that. I came from the Justin Sleva education background where he's got one assistant, he has a Google sheet. So I'm not that basic. I do have a mediocre CRM, I suppose, but yeah, I keep it pretty simple. I have a great assistant. I got on hiremymom.com and she's incredible. She pretty much can do everything. So we kind of split up a lot of the work and just get after it every day and, see what shakes out. I've tried a lot of different channels of marketing from TV to text to PPC. I'm not afraid to try something and not afraid to turn it off if it's not what I'm enjoying. I turned off text messages, PPC as well, and TV. So sticking with cold calling and texting or in mail right now.
That's awesome. And we'll spend some time on marketing channels because I want to hear you, give us your spiel for what your TV ad sounded like, because that's just really fun. And I want to really hammer home that point where this business doesn't need to be as complex as people make it out to be. I was a panelist at a recent conference in Golden, Colorado, and they asked what my software stack was. And I was like, I don't know, PropStream, Pebble, and I guess Regrid, for kind of looking up stuff. And everyone laughed at me and they're like talking about 40 different things. And I'm like, I don't care, man. My business works. And if it's, unless you can pitch me so hard to show how it's better, it doesn't matter. But I love the simplicity and the approach that you guys have. I think one thing I really, and we can kind of move towards it right now because it's along the same train of thought. And what marketing channels are you doing? And how do you see that working effectively in your business currently? And then Larry, same thing for you.
Okay. In the past, we did do direct mail, not a ton. We weren't any of the major mailers. We always were pretty sniper focused when we did it. We actually I did have one map EA guy, because it was kind of before the software did that, who would go through and he'd take a minute a record and just say ample access or not. And then he always had the filters on for the wetlands and topography, actually. So we did mail that way a while back, and we might go back to that. Since then, we have really hyper-focused in our market and gone deep with our local partnerships. So luckily, that means that we have some really solid brokers that are always looking out for us, and like a very unique bird dog who brings us some crazy stuff. And so we are relying on them quite heavily. We also do have some students, coaching clients, friends, colleagues, investors that will sometimes bring us deals as well. So for now, we're riding this wave. The only marketing that Mary is doing is she actually writes like letters to people who we've had, we've been in talks with for a couple months, or not a couple months, but like literally 6 to 2 years or something. She'll reach out to them, but otherwise that's it.
Yeah, I'm doing direct mail. I mean, when I first started, it was just get, tons of counties in a state, 30,000 records, just blast everybody with blind offers. And, it's evolved so much. I don't do blind offers anymore. I do range just because, and it's like a huge range. They're like, what does this even mean? But I wasn't having success with the blind offers, so moved away from that. And then just cold calling, just kind of semi-warm leads where you're taking a lot of time to evaluate and comp that don't really go anywhere. But I got a good minor subdivide from it recently. And then this townhome project I'm working on came from cold calling. So feel like some of these bigger, better opportunities are harder to find in mail.
Yeah, I'm I'm glad we're getting multiple opinions because I think a big part of it is just being good at your marketing medium. You know, there's people we've had on the show that all they do is talk to good brokers, and brokers are all the source of all their deals. I mean, I think John Jasniak, that was mostly where he gets his deals, and then on the flip side, Mason and I are all direct to seller. Can you both give us some examples of marketing that hasn't worked? And just to keep this simple, Anne, you can answer first and then Larry second. So we have a consistent cadence.
Okay. Oh yeah, make me always go first.
You're up for the task.
That's fine. Marketing that hasn't worked. Well, I would say that for us, I could say it's direct mail if I'm willing to also admit that we didn't really send enough. Because we were, going for only a really targeted type of property. I don't think that we can really judge. Our sample wasn't large enough for it to be actual data. So for us, direct mail kind of wore out. Also, I think because we're in a smaller market and we already know every land, in our area that we want. So it just doesn't match our purpose. We never texted because for us it just doesn't work for our life. We don't want to employ people and that to go through leads and then sift through a bunch that doesn't. And we did try cold calling, and we used a local lady to do it. And I wouldn't say it didn't work. I would just say we didn't like it.
Yeah, for me, yeah, I think a lot is what you do and don't like. And I don't really love managing people. I mean, I had a girl in the Philippines doing my texting, and she thought her job was to send 1,000 a day. And I was like, I don't care if you send 5. That's not the goal, is to get a contract. So I really didn't enjoy that. Just the data, just the constant messaging and rude people. I didn't enjoy that. PPC, I am turning off. I've just found too many properties where the seller's not upfront with some of the issues of the property. Had some stuff in Arizona that was looking really promising. It turns out the town wanted a $200,000 water line put in for this whole road. And just a handful of other things. Seemed like I got maybe 10 or 11 under contract and had to bail on every single one of them for one reason or another. And then which I'm sure is of interest to some folks listening, but I did TV commercials. So I went to the Fox studio in Nashville and stood in front of the green screen, and it was crazy. I mean, they have you do one line at a time. So you think this is going to be easy, right? But you say it and they're like, oh, you aren't smiling. You look like a jerk, or you didn't have any hand gestures. You're just a robot. I'm like, can't believe how hard this is. Was cool because you didn't have to send any data. You just wait for leads to pop in your CRM, but they were just trash. Even though I said 4 acres with road access and above, those were not the people that were calling. It was the 0.012 acre in Junktown, USA. So, live and learn a little on that.
Yeah. And I asked this because it relates in some ways to the beginning of our conversation about bad advice that we all have gotten and learned was bad advice. And I think a lot of what's being peddled on social media is exactly what you should avoid. And what they're telling you isn't working is exactly what you should do, because, we talked about this off camera before we started, but I wanted to say it on the show. When I saw a lot of people saying that mail wasn't working late last year and you needed to be calling or doing PPC, I thought, great, mail's going to work again because less people are doing it. And mail has been our number one source of deals, and I'm sending far fewer pieces of mail. And one other point I wanted to make that relates is just, you guys mentioned outsourcing, or I think Anne mentioned that not necessarily being a good idea, especially early on. And I have found if I've outsourced any of my marketing, whether it's cold calling or people answering the phone, it's a total flop. I have all in-house people calling, answering the phones. So that's just another piece of bad advice that I think is often peddled online.
I agree. Actually, we when we first got started, we did Land Academy back in the day, and it was well, their mail house that they own, of course, and then they were all pushing for Pat Live, and we did that. And Mary listened to 2 of the calls, and she said, "Drop it. We are not doing it. I would rather them just leave a voicemail and I call them back because they're not doing us any justice here."
I think this creates kind of a good segue that, and I'm really interested in your thoughts on it specifically because you're in business with your family, and so often we hear all these the funny same things and different colloquialisms within business, like you grow better together, of like bring on partners, go work for other people, and delegate and abdicate every single responsibility into the business so you don't run it. And I'm like, well, if you haven't done any deals, you never actually ran a business, so you can't delegate it. But I digress on that. And talk to me about partnerships and what you've seen as being some of the most effective character traits of your sister that make her a great business partner. And then Larry, I don't know if you're a total solo operator on the ownership side, but what you also look for in a partner, whether it's partnering on a deal or a broker or anything, and then what you also both avoid in terms of partnership, because a bad partner is one of the things that can sink a business very, very rapidly.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Mary and we grew up, close, I guess, because we're 2 years apart. And our dad ran us ragged, and we just had to do a bunch of stuff we didn't want, and we didn't really like each other. And then I've lived overseas for 20 years. So like I just see her a couple times, maybe at Christmas and then in the summertime. And so we weren't really very close, but it was right at the very beginning of COVID, and she had just moved to Colorado, and she'd given up her small business herself. And so she was kind of just lost a little bit and didn't have a community. And her people skills are really good. Like, she's the one that gets invited to the parties, and I'm like the nerdy one. And like, it's just, we are really different. So the more I started to think about, what roles we would play in the business, it was clear that we're polar opposites. And so from the very beginning, we've just stayed completely in our own lanes. And she takes care of the synchronous tasks and anything that's like live human to human stuff. And then I do everything data and asynchronous because I'm 13 hours ahead most of the time.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a really long time that I wanted to have a partner. I spent 15 years in medical device sales, standing in an operating room, chit-chatting with surgeons. I'm not that tech savvy. So people are talking about all this stuff. I tried Follow-Up Boss, and I was like, I can't figure this out. I'm totally out on this. I can screw up an Excel spreadsheet like nobody's business. So I really wanted someone to come in and handle some systems and data and all those things, because just not really my strong suit. But looking back, I'm glad I'm on my own and, not splitting everything. In terms of partnerships, I do still work with folks. Me and Ann talk about deals every now and then, and it's just really people like and trust for whatever reason. I got a couple other people that I've just always been close to. I don't talk to that many people in the industry a lot on the phone, maybe 3 or 4 people that I'll go to for specific things, and see if they want, if I'm going to take their time to get, their opinion on something, I want to offer them in on the deal if they want to.
I think it simplifies things too, of just being able to know that you are the key decision maker and you can operate with an effective partner where that family dynamic, sometimes it's fantastic, sometimes it's, the worst. But, just being able to simplify the decision making, because there are so many trivial decisions that you make across every single pipeline of every single deal that you get decision fatigue, and having to go to a partner too can potentially make it a lot more frustrating. But to switch gears a little bit and change up the order so Ann doesn't have to answer every question first, what your career prior to being in the land flipping and investing space, what do you feel like ideas and technical skills and abilities that you learned from it that have greatly benefited you in this business? And what do you think has kind of held you back from growing beyond what you're currently at? Larry, if you want to go.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the difficulties I have with all the tech stuff. I mean, I guess I thought I was going to go to law school. So my major in school was political science. So I never touched Excel and these different things. So I just don't have familiarity with that kind of stuff. But on the flip side, I think one of the reasons that I saw proof of concept and was successful is because I can talk. I mean, I can sell to people and talk on the phone. I had a lot of experience in college working. I was on the phone a lot. And so I have no intimidation whatsoever picking up the phone, where I feel maybe some new younger folks, they want to email. They just want to email offers. Like, you got to get these people on the phone and try and win them over a little bit, build some rapport, right?
I love this question. I've never been asked this question before, but I actually hadn't thought about it until right now. Luckily, Larry talked for a while. I still have my W-2. So I am an art teacher, a visual art teacher at an international school. And it's a great job. I love it. And actually, because I've taught digital art for a long time and Photoshop and all those things, like using the 3D mapping tools and the mapping software is a great fit for me. Also, just, I mean, as an artist, I'm always, well, I hope I'm spatially aware, and so that part, it's fun. Like, my sister makes fun of me. She's like, "Oh my God, you used to make beautiful stuff, and now you just draw squares." That's true. I mean, that's my role, is figuring out, what does this land want to be? And it's kind of the same. Like, what does this clay want to be? What does this land want to be? Where's the water? Where's the hill? Where's the build spot? Where are the utilities? Like, all of those, that problem solving piece is there for sure. Um, and then probably the other part is, so I lived in Malaysia and then Shanghai and then Ghana and now the Philippines. So I guess it's probably a bit of a like risk-taking, dive-in, adventurous kind of spirit. And so I'm not from Tennessee. I go there and I love it. And I wasn't a land investor, but now I am. And so I think it's just like a just go for it mindset.
Interesting. Okay. Wow. That's now I want to know about your background. I'd love to hear about Shanghai and Malaysia, but perhaps another conversation there. So you mentioned, Larry, that you're targeting properties to be it sounds like entitled for builders, and I know you mentioned small flips along with some of the subdivides you're doing. How do you both see your business evolving into the future so that you're not always on the endless hunt for more deals, or, perhaps so each deal you get pays off to a greater extent or for years and years? Larry, if you want to start, I'd be curious to see what you're doing there.
Yeah. I never got into the owner finance stuff. Part of me wishes I would. It'd be nice to have some notes coming in. Part of me is like, I'd probably run out of money and just sell them anyway. So what's the point? So I think that one of the struggles being a land investor is it's not a business that has the reoccurring revenue, right? Like, I got a buddy that he manages Airbnbs, just comes in all the time. So it's always like, right now, it's like, I need something right now because it's going to sell at the end of the year. So it's just that constant battle of like, where's the Christmas money coming from right now? Because those people need to be calling me right now.
Yeah. And we're until now, I've had a very nice W-2 that is cushy and pays the bills. And my kids are graduating, so my eldest just graduated in May, and then my next one graduates next year, and then I'm retiring from teaching. So I'm going all into land, which does also change, the model of how, until now it's just been fun money and I can just snowball. But we are going to have to kind of, live on it. And one of the things that Mary and I have been throwing around is, like, on a recent deal, we just split it into 12, and we keep saying, like, the responsible thing to do would be to keep 2, like everything we do, keep 2. We haven't done it yet, but it is there. We do have some notes, but we haven't sought them. They've just sort of happened. Properties that were taking longer to sell, and the person was willing to put down close to, all of the capital we had into the deal. We don't really love them, but I think it is also a good idea. actually, my husband and I are talking about when we sell some of our rentals, because we actually hate managing people and properties. I think we'll probably spin those into, hopefully, a subdivide that we can finance all of those properties, and then that's our monthly cash flow. So that's the business plan now. But maybe when I have a beer with Larry next week, it'll change.
Yeah,
It'll evolve.
yeah, I struggle with that too. You come across a good property, and I live in Tennessee. It's like this would be cool. Get some four-wheelers, but I'm like, this is how I make my family money. Like, I can't just sit around and hold something and think we always are a little jealous sometimes. These properties you find that are really nice, and it's like, be nice to own that and just sit on it because it's not going down.
Yeah. Okay, I want to dig into this a little bit further because this is a conversation I don't think is often had, and it's always pitched as a dichotomy. I hear the no tenants, termites, and toilets, which I think is really stupid because they serve very different purposes. So, Anne, you said you're selling your rentals. What are you going to do? You mentioned land notes as far as monthly income, but when I look at the notes I have, they're great. I'm selling more on terms, and it's nice, but it's just an annuity. And it's getting eroded in value every day. It's not going up. There's no tax benefits. So I'm going to continue building and keeping and or buying nice real estate because I want especially with 100% bonus depreciation being back, I want that. Plus it goes up in value, plus just the erosion of the dollar over time. Having that fixed long-term debt is a helpful thing. So how do you think about that as you're selling those rental properties?
Well, I'm at a different stage of life than you.
True. Yeah, I'm just curious. No, this is just a conversation. Yeah.
Yeah. So my husband and I are both turning 50 this year. And so we've always been, just, I think, pretty responsible with our investments and diversified. And now we just want to have a lifestyle business pretty much that keeps the bills paid and we can enjoy. So part of that, and this is also just kind of different for me, is that we'll live always in a low cost of living country that has great medical.
Yeah.
And so that makes a huge difference, right? Because we can sell a house that's, $700,000, split it into, 7 lots that are rolling. And then, I mean, whether they pay off early or whether it lasts, as long as it does, it's still okay. Like, we still do have a retirement plan-ish. And we're still going to be running, subdivides and flips on the other side. So as long as we can, I don't want to touch anything in Danielson Land Co. Like, I really want it to be for like a legacy. And so if we end up, taking, I don't know, distributions and it becomes our life, we can, but hopefully not. We can just keep rolling it.
Yeah,
Very cool.
I struggle with this as well. I had some small houses in Dayton, Ohio, like buy for $50,000, and they rent like $850. Sounded awesome. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna buy these and buy a couple a year. But all the things, the termites, toilets, all the things happened to those. The renters moved out, the basement flooded, HVAC went out, all the things just eroding all my profit when you got a property manager. So I got out on that. I came to the realization I was going to need way more of those than I thought. And then I got involved in Airbnb here in Nashville with my buddy who manages them, and it went really good for a really long time in Nashville. Bought a lake house because the rentals were paying for them, but the market's so flooded right now with new builds that are closer to the Broadway and all the things. So we're closing on we have 2, and we're closing on the second sale next week. And I need to find something to cash flow so it's not such a grind doing this all the time. So trying to learn a little here and there on the side. Try not to have a ton of shiny object syndrome, which it's not easy to do, but would love to find, I don't know, some kind of flex industrial or something like that. And it's hard though. You look, you get emails from multifamily syndicators and it's like 10, 8, 9% return. I'm like, if I just keep buying land, I'm going to do way better than that.
Although I did just jump on Silva's deal.
Yeah, that's a good call. I've been looking at some of that stuff.
Yeah. It's part of that, like, be responsible, eggs in one basket, spread them out.
Yep. Yeah, Larry, I am from Ohio originally, so I wish we had talked before you bought those. I've done this for a while already myself, and before I did it, I managed rentals for somebody else. I've been involved in rentals for almost 15 years. And oh my gosh, cheap. If someone is trying to sell you cheap old real estate in the Midwest, run. It is crap. You want nice, expensive real estate. My tenants move out, and I don't need to clean the units even oftentimes, let alone repair anything. And you can get that with nice real estate in nice areas, and especially new real estate. So the way that I look at it at this point, and this isn't just coming from my experience because it's still fairly limited. I have a lot of much older friends that have been doing this for 40 or 50 years. So if you're listening to this and thinking about buying rentals, buy nice new real estate. And many of the headaches that come with rentals, you'll never experience. I mean, when you have tenants with 750 credit scores in a new building or a newer building and B or A part of town, it just, I don't even care what the landlord laws are. It just doesn't matter. So that's my opinion on that. I could do a whole podcast ranting about that.
Right.
People from Ohio, you guys are strange. But Dan mentioned headaches, and you mentioned a lifestyle business. And the longer I've been in business, because I'm still brand new to this, I've only been in it for about 4 years now. Business is not as fun as people make it out to be. It's very stressful having millions of your own money that you've worked very hard to create and keep and grow. It's stressful. It just inherently is to a certain extent. And so what noise or negative thoughts that you personally have or hear externally are you constantly trying to block out of your head and focus on the next important task within your business?
I guess I'll take that first, and Sperry. Well, I guess the things that keep me up at night are maybe thinking about some due diligence on a property. What am I missing? Maybe something like that. I've only lost money on 2 deals, but there was minor, couple grand here and there. And then just that, like we talked about earlier, is like, where are the next deals coming from? What if no one calls? Like what's going to happen? And then I think it's been a really slow market on the sales side. So, I mean, I have loans. Like I work with a lot of local banks, find a local bank, tell them what I do, send them all my stuff. So you got personal guarantees on 3 or 4 properties with pretty big price tags, and they're not really selling like you want. So that'll keep you up at night. But I think remembering people say that land always sells, like it'll sell. So trying to remind myself of that, just try to go into every day with a good optimistic attitude.
I have some of the same for sure. We currently aren't leveraged at all. We have a couple of investors, but we haven't. We're ready to. They're actually at the end of the. We're going to pay them out next month unless they want to roll over. We haven't done any traditional financing, but what keeps me up at night is why aren't we? I mean, I'm still bankable and I still have a job. So next week when we're in Tennessee, we do have a couple of meetings set up with some smaller banks because I do think that actually it's underutilized, and it's something that the reason we aren't doing it is probably because I'm scared. Like I don't want to have loans. I don't like it. I sleep really well when everything's paid for. And even with some deals that are taking longer to sell, it just kind of doesn't, we're not worried about it because it's beautiful land. We only buy quality product, and it is appreciating. And I guess we can go start using it. I might be camping on it if I, depending on how things go. But yeah, I think that's part of it is, am I taking enough risks? And then the other piece of that is, have you guys read Cash Flow Quadrant? It's like the second.
A while, yeah.
Yeah, like a long time ago, right? I just gave it to my girls to read this summer. And I re-listened to it with them, and I was thinking, oh my God, I'm moving from the employee quadrant over to the small business and investing quadrant. And that's a really big leap as well. And it does keep me up at night. Like, am I ready to not have a job? And I know the answer is yes, and I just have to frickin' do it. But it is like, a leap, another leap.
I think having a balance is critical. I was a Dave Ramsey guy for a while, paid my mortgage down. Now I'm like, have a 2.75% rate on my house. I'm like, why the hell did I do that? That was stupid. Could have used that money for a million other things. But I think, the power of using the leverage and your cash on cash return can just be incredible. So I think having a balance, you're not over leveraged. Like if my notes called me or my mortgages called me right now, I mean, I could find a way to, figure it out. But yeah, it could be a very powerful tool. So dip your toe in, do one and see how you like it. And then, just keep in mind, you don't want to lose a lot of sleep. You don't want too much out.
I know, I don't. Even just when we used our B-lock, I was like, oh gosh, this feels scary. And it was piece of cake, easy. And I should be doing more of it. You can give another pep talk.
Oh, and I think the important thing, which I'll drive the next question towards this idea, is, the idea of success is different for a lot of people. I left my corporate job for the reason of, a hypertensive stage 2. I was managing $100 million P&L, 500 employees. I was stressed out. I didn't sleep. And then I turned my business into something that almost felt the same way. Like I tell the story of, what was it? September, October last year, I had to pay off $700,000 in private notes for properties that, Larry, I know you say land sells, and all that land has sold at this point, but it was for a bunch of land that didn't sell in the timeline that we expected. And I was like, why am I doing this? I was making good good healthy income, not having to risk all our own capital and everything like that. So it is a balance where I think more and more of what I'm doing is kind of similar to what you're talking about, Anna. It's really nice whenever I don't have to have an investor that I have any obligation towards. I'm not stressed when the property sells because the bet is so asymmetric that it's like, whatever, like it's going to be great whenever I get my money back and everything like that. But there is still that growth mindset of, I'm 30. My wife just turned 30 a few days ago. We're looking at having kids soon. I want my kids to, have the world. I want my kids to be Nepo babies that inherit a 9-figure estate, because I can't wait to see what they're able to do with it. So what does success look like for you? And it can be personally, financially, or within this business. And what are you doing every single day to move yourself closer to what that goal actually is?
Yeah,
Whatever
I
speaks
think
first.
that's an awesome question that's not asked a lot. I think for me, I had a great W-2. It was kind of golden handcuffs. You're around W-2 people all the time, not really any entrepreneurs. You're thinking, oh, I got my 401k. I'm going to put my money in there and everything's going to be great. I read an amazing book called Die with Zero. And it's not like don't, die with $0. It's like, it's okay to spend more during certain times in life. This concept that you're going to be 65 and you're just going to be doing all this fun stuff. Like you're probably not going to have the energy to do it. My father-in-law has done really well. And I told him we need to go to Munich and go to Oktoberfest. We both love cold beer. Like, let's go. And he's like, sit on an airplane for more than an hour? Are you kidding me? So, I've really enjoyed that book and being like, let's do things while my kids are 9 and 11 right now. So it's like, let's do awesome vacations they're going to remember. Let's do these kinds of things that, I probably won't really be that up for when I'm 75 years old. Like it's no big deal. I think one of the things that people might get wrong too with some of the gurus and different things too is that like, it's such a laptop lifestyle, this and that. Like when I left my job, my wife is super supportive. She has a good W-2 and I treat it super serious. So after the kids are gone, I always wear like a collared shirt. Like I'm going to work. I go into the office 8:15, 8:30, and I'm in there till 4. I'm not just playing golf or doing whatever. Like I take it super serious. So I think that you have to have some kind of mindset there to really make this work of like, is the marketing going out? Are you doing everything you need to do to be successful?
Like Larry, I think it's memory dividends. Isn't that what it is? Memory dividends. That's what my husband yells when we like buy a boat or do something. Memory dividends. Yeah, it is. I completely agree. And now we're on the brink of being empty nesters. So I think that's actually, we call ourselves empty because we're actually going to sell our nest too. But it's going to be so fun. Like I'm really excited for what it brings and making sure that we are enjoying each day. Like, what does it look like? My husband has already had some health problems. And now I do have to pay so much in university fees. My daughter's heading to Berkeley in a month, and I just keep looking like, did we save enough? Did we do okay? And then the other ones the next year. So it's just, that same balance. I think for what does success means I can cover my bills, I can sleep at night, and like my days, I've designed them to be the way that I want them to be. And I don't put on a shirt. I put on my running clothes because I never know when the window's going to be. I'm in them now. Like, I'm about to just go. So that's the other benefit, right? I mean, I think, you can look the way you want to look, and that you can choose how that suits you. So, I want to continue to build. And I also want to spend a little bit more time in Nashville because I think that being local and maintaining the relationships and actually operating the deals. Like right now, we have to depend on, some of our local people too heavily to operate some of these deals. And I think, especially the project that we're in now, it would have gone so much faster if one of us was local.
Those are great answers. And I think it's something that, Dan and I will probably continue to talk more about on the podcast of, we call our podcast The Big Picture Blueprint, and it's not just about, business success. It's about translating that into life success. And I think that something that, now that I'm 30 and my prefrontal cortex is developed and I'm so wise and have so much experience now, is there's so many agreements that we created whenever we were teenagers about every personal decision needing to also be an investment decision. And that, if you do something and, there's not a return on investment on it, it's a bad decision. And I think that it's just growing and realizing what's the purpose of this all if you can't actually enjoy your life. And building a business can be really fun. Like building different aspects of the business has been something that I really, really enjoy. And I'm less focused on just grow to the point where it's like I'm over leveraging my, sanity, trying to build this. That hearing this advice, what Larry and you guys are saying, and what I'm attempting to convey to the audience is that, like, recognize the purpose behind what you're doing here. And you can try and tell yourself, it's like, I'm helping landowners. Get the fuck out. Shut up. Like, no, you're not. Like, you're buying things for cheap and selling them for more. That's what we do. Sometimes we improve, sometimes we don't. But a business that you're creating to enjoy life. And so don't forget to enjoy life, and every decision you make doesn't need to be a financial one. And you don't necessarily need to get the highest ROI by, using effective leverage, because you're able to sleep at night knowing that you're not beholden to, lenders or private investors or banks or whatever it might be. So I'll pass it off to Dan and step off my soap.
Yeah. I have, I want to talk a little bit about the current market. Larry, you had mentioned the sales being slower, but there's one more tangent to what Mason just said that I wanted to say, which is contrary to him. Is I set things up initially optimizing for freedom, and I didn't work that much in 2020 and 2021 and a lot of 2022, and everything got boring. And so for people that have a job and are listening to podcasts about financial freedom, and they think that I'm going to quit my job, it's going to be amazing, I'm going to have this business. Well, if you're not working intensely on something, at least for a good portion of your time, and using your brain and your abilities at whatever it is that you are good at, you're going to get really bored, and those hobbies and trips and whatever it is you like to do are suddenly going to lose their meaning. You got to be working on something. And so, I'm looking for more to work on, honestly, at this juncture, because I've realized this more and more. So just another point I wanted to make, and something I think differently about. But anyways, Larry, Ann, tell us about today. What are you doing to continue to thrive through what is generally, not everywhere, but generally a slower market?
Being really, really selective to make sure that whatever we're buying, it's going to sell, but it might be a while, right? So with that in mind, if I have to hold this property a little longer, that's okay. But I want to make sure that it doesn't have defects. We're buying really nice properties in really great markets. And it will only be a matter of time. I would say that's one thing. And the other shift that we've started to make, and it's kind of tied to this, is looking at school districts. So, and Larry probably knows this better than me. Well, he for sure does. But in Tennessee, there's a really big disparity between what the schools are like. And so we're letting that kind of drive us, because the lots that we create are affordable rural tracts. Mostly people are putting barn dominiums or custom builds on them. And a lot of them are newer families. And so I think as long as we buy beautiful land in a place where the schools are good, that to us feels like a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I mean, when I first started, it was just like, oh, just market value. I'll change it in 30 days. Half the time it's sold anyways. And now it's just going into it and really looking at like worst case scenario of like, yeah. And I've never been one to do wholesaling. I just don't, people say to be upfront with the people, but I don't think they are. So I have dabbled into that a little bit, where I just tell the seller straight up, I'm like, I don't think you're wrong for asking this, but I don't see it. It's too risky for me. So we can either go our separate ways, or I could try and find a buyer for you in 3 months. I'll invest some money into marketing it. I don't want to just do nothing. It's a waste of my time and money. I'll get great photos and put it up everywhere I can. So dabbling a little bit in that, just being totally upfront with the people, being okay to lose the deal, no big deal. Otherwise, yeah, just buying more quality product, the steep stuff on the side of the road, whatever, is just not in my realm right now. Smaller stuff with HOAs is not selling. I'm staying away from that kind of stuff. So just trying to think of what most of those people looking online are actual end buyers. They're looking for a little more land. It's not just 1 or 2 acres. They're looking for something without a lot of restrictions, and it can't have a lot of hair on it in terms of shape and topo, wetlands.
1,000%. And I wonder with that too, like, I don't know how much you've done like partial timbering, because that's the other thing. A lot of the tracks that we're looking at now are just so heavily wooded. And we come from a family where my dad would just do a partial timber anytime he needed to buy anything or wanted to buy anything. And so that's always on our mind too. Like, we want to grow, we want to try new things. And that sometimes we do leave tracks behind when we don't want to tackle that. But I do like learning new things, and that is something I'd like to do.
Yeah, I think it's so much more rewarding when you do actually improve a property. I don't do it on all of them by any means. I mean, some of them are fine just to sell as is, real rural. Their buyers maybe not be a high ticket kind of candidate. So I think there's a lot to be said for, bringing some high value property to market.
I really like what you both said there. Good properties are gonna sell, right? And good locations. And I love, Mary, how Anne.
I live there.
Yeah, I just, on my Facebook, I have Mary Ann Danielson. So that's stuck in my head. But no, I love that you're drilling down to school district, because everybody knows location, but often that's not applied to land. And it drives me nuts when new people with very little money are being taught to just spray entire counties. I think that is the stupidest thing ever. If you have a limited budget, these people buying courses that have very little money, you got to drill down unless you have a huge budget. So I think that's excellent advice for both of you.
And I think it's, Dan, on that, it's a great way to qualify every deal that you're doing, where, as a broker now that I'm working on selling a lot of land, and I'm working on now with Dan's properties too, that I'm working over 100 deals, 100 active properties that I'm working on selling. And people will be like, hey, I'm interested in it, because I'm messaging them on Facebook, and I'm like, okay, well, we've got over 100 available in these locations and they're like, oh, location doesn't matter. And I just stop responding to them, because I know that they're never going to buy it. If you don't care about where the land is, I promise you're never going to buy it. But I do think, our intention with this show was, originally we had one other panelist on it that was brand new in their investing journey. And just like any beginner, they didn't show up. They couldn't figure out how to make it work. Just kidding. Ben, we look forward to having you on the show at some point in time. But say Ben was here. He'd done maybe 0 deals, maybe 10 deals, just at the very beginning of their land investing journey. What one piece of advice would you give to the person just getting started out in this business that you wish you had known? And if you had had this piece of advice when you first got started, you might be 2 to 20x further along than you currently are.
I'll go first. I wish I could answer it better, but I became pretty close after doing Justin Sleeva's course. And when I quit my job, he's like, every Monday at 10 a.m., we're getting on a Zoom so you don't make any mistakes. So I won't charge you. And I wish I had someone in my corner when I was going through it. And looking back at those days, I mean, I think I had put a little money aside to start this business, and I was super trigger happy. Like, I just wanted to buy everything. He did a podcast because this property had a waterfall. I was like, hell yeah. Think about the pictures of the waterfall. He's like, no, it's a cliff. That's why there's a waterfall, because it's a cliff. No one's going to buy your cliff. And so I think if you do have a little bit of money, don't be too trigger happy. Do what we're talking about. Properties that don't have all the hair on them with the wetlands and the topo and all that kind of stuff.
Buy right, and if you aren't there, make sure that you have a local expert that you can trust that can really let you know. I mean, I think Mary and I only had purchased one property without boots on the ground. So dumb. And it was our very first one, and same thing. We were just excited, and I mean, it was fine. And of course, we still made money because it was 2020 or 2021 or whenever it was. But now we lean so heavily on our local crew. And so we have like an excavator guy who'll go look at stuff. We have a builder who will go look and say, yeah, I want that one, or yeah, make this work or whatever. So I think really, really tapping into the people who can walk the land, see the land, and then report back to you is really
good. That's been a game changer for me as well. I used to sell a lot of properties on my own, and I did a subdivide in some crappy town, had all these restrictions. That's one of the deals I lost money on. I didn't get anyone in on the front end. So I think it's hard for wholesalers that aren't buying the property. All these realtors on land.com are like, oh, you're one of those people. I'm like, no, actually, I do this all the time. Been doing this all the time. Here's my close date. I'm going to buy the property the day after you're going to list it. And just let them know you're legitimate. Because having those people on the front end, it's worth the 6-7% for them to make sure you don't screw up and buy something you shouldn't buy. And there's just things you don't always know.
And the reoccurring relationship too, like pretty much now I don't think we're ever really looking for a new broker or an agent. It's more like, oh, do we give it to this guy or this one or this lady? And even with one of them, he has a whole bunch of kids and he's just starting to save some money, and we have a big project that we want to do, but the operation of it is too much for what we can handle right now. And when we meet him next week, we want to say, do you want in on the deal? Can we pay you as an operator? And we haven't done that before, but we've been close. And we've also with him before said, do you want in like 5 or 10%? He's like, I can't, I got 5 kids, so he's getting closer, I think. And I think that those relationships, when you're returning, then you don't have to start over. You don't have to prove yourself again. And I mean, for us being not in the state and ladies, it takes a while for someone to really understand yes, it's us. We're paying. We're sending you proof of funds. Here's our title company. Here's all of that really helps.
Yeah. And it's both really great advice. And it's unfortunately one of those things where it's really hard to have that ingrained in you without getting to experience it. And it's part of the reason a lot of us have narrowed the scope and really focus on creating that local competitive advantage of being able to say, hey, I've got 150 reps in this market. I know this market like the back of my hand. I've got my actual team, and I'm running this like a business as versus some hodgepodge thing that is kind of distracted and all over the place. But it's really important, Larry, just like you said, of not getting trigger happy. I think for some of us that had a lot of early success, especially getting started in, 2020, 2021, whenever anyone could succeed in this business, and it wasn't our own genius or anything like that. It was just the, market conditions. You have to remind yourself of, I got lucky at the beginning. I had no skills. I had no experience to be able to say that this was like a smart, wise decision based on that. It was very lucky. But we want to start moving towards the end of the show. A question we do ask every guest is, what was one question that we did not ask you that we should have asked you, Larry?
You gave me that one first, seriously?
Yeah, that's the problem is we gave Ann all the ones at the beginning, and that was just alphabetical order. Ann's on the left side of my screen, so I'm talking. I'm
maybe a little deeper into like what success looks like for you. And for me, my last job, I mean, I'd leave the house at 6:30 in the morning to go to the operating room. I had no idea when I would be done. So just that control of your life, and if I want to go eat lunch with my buddies, I can take the kids to the bus stop. Just that, replacing my income was amazing. But then what I have on the other side of that has just completely changed my life for the better. So I think that's what, success looks like for me. I don't need to make $1 million. I probably don't even need to make $500,000, but, being able to have control of my day, and spend the time with the people I care about, that's the game changer for what this can offer you, the vehicle.
And for me, the question that I'm happy you didn't ask, but I should process it, is what are the challenges that are standing in your way right now? And I think there's internal ones, and then there's, macroeconomic ones and all of that. But I do think for all of us that the challenges that we're facing, we have to separate what part of this is a mindset issue, what part of this is experience. And I just need to ask the right question. What things can I control and what can't I control? Am I working in a market that is going to be okay right now, or am I willing to wait? Like all of those things. And then just kind of zooming out and saying, what is this, a big problem or a little problem? Is it a mental problem, or, do I just need to work harder? What is it? And I don't know if it's, I feel like my brain is always doing that and almost too much. And sometimes it does just take writing it all down and kind of sorting through and figuring out what can I tackle, and then what am I going to do today?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, getting your thoughts on paper is a good way to help clarify your thoughts, and then getting that, next most important action too is a great way to move anything forward. But all right, guys, last question. Where can people find out more about you? And if there's anything you're looking for that someone that might be listening could send you, feel free to share that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a course or anything cool to sell. Happy to be a resource to anybody. I'm always open to networking and adding value to people, because a lot of people did that for me when I was starting out. I've worked primarily in the Southeast, so the Carolinas, Alabama, Tennessee, Northern Mississippi a little. So if you have something there, you want to get my thoughts, you can reach out to me. My company is Land Exit Solutions. So Larry at Land Exit Solutions. Always happy to try and help out.
Yeah. And for me, that's a good question, because we do have that whole two-headed monster identity on Facebook, where we're Mary Ann Danielson. So I'm the Ann and she's the Mary. So Mary Ann Danielson gets both of us. And if it's on the phone, it's Mary. And if it's on the computer, it's Ann. Our website is danielsonlandco.com. And then our email is sisters@danielsonlandco.com.
Awesome. Well, Ann, Larry, thank you so much for being here today. This was a fun conversation. We'll have to probably have you back in the future. But until then, everyone, this is Dan Haberkoss and Mason McDonald with the Big Picture Blueprint, signing off.